The Diablo series is now almost 30 years old, and during that time, we got 9 different titles, either in base games or expansion. And in this video, we're going to rank them all from worst to best. Now, before we jump in, this will be your last chance to enter the giveaway to win one of these awesome Diablo lore books shipped directly to you for free. So be sure you stick until the end of the video to figure out how to enter. With that, let's begin with number 9 and the worst Diablo game to be released, and that is Diablo Immortal. Diablo Immortal released back in 2022 after an 8-year gap of any core Diablo title, and to say that fans were incredibly disappointed to hear its announcement when they were eagerly waiting a core entry in the series was an understatement.
Hey, just was wondering, is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke?
Combine this with its incredibly predatory monetization model, with players needing to spend over $100,000 to be able to max out your character and be competitive in the multiple events that pit players against each other, and you got a worse nightmare with anyone that has poor financial impulse control. This is unfortunate because the game itself offers a lot of cool lore and new classes that are a lot of fun to play with that have never before been seen in the Diablo franchise, like the Tempest and the Blood Knight, and not to mention that in the recent Berserk IP collaboration event, Diablo Immortal got a much cooler event than Diablo IV. But with the predatory pricing, the aggressive monthly battle passes, it is a hard pass for myself and many other players, regardless of whether or not we have phones. Next, following on number 8 is Diablo Hellfire. Hellfire was the incredibly rushed that was developed by a third party and wasn't approved or desired by the original Diablo creators up in Blizzard North. Since there was a 4-year gap between Diablo I and Diablo II, Blizzard's parent company wanted to create something else for fans to digest in the Diablo franchise, so they got Diablo Hellfire made. And the contract and budget for Hellfire was to get it done in 2 months, and that's exactly what happened. What resulted was a product that felt rushed. It had 2 separate zones, the Nest and the Crypt, which looked like it had nothing to do with the Diablo franchise, and none of the new content or lore tied in with the main story whatsoever. Add imbalanced items and skills, some being too weak, some being way too strong, and the new zones with poorly designed layout and tons of mobs that just keep running away from you if you're melee, it comes to a very subpar experience. They did add some quality of life benefits like moving faster in town, which is appreciated. If you're a diehard fan and will consume anything Diablo, like frankly myself, you could give it a try on GOG.com, which is the only way you can get it now, but alas, you're safe to skip over this one. Next at number 7 is Diablo III, specifically on release. When Diablo III first released, it was met with numerous problems. First off, you could barely actually play the game because it was the first in the Diablo series that is always online, and many players, including myself, were met with massive queues and an error 37 issue that wouldn't let you join the game at the end of those queues. Past the server stabilization issues, the endgame was a mess. Remember, this was way before the adventure mode, and itemization was not class specific, so regardless of what you were playing, you could still get items with stats that your character could not even benefit from. Also, with the way that legendaries were made, they were randomized, and frankly, you could find many rares that were better. This created a system where there really wasn't any intelligence or smart loot going on that fit your character, so getting an item that truly benefited you was incredibly rare, and that leads to the next huge problem, which was the real money auction house. See, Diablo II had a big problem, and frankly still does, of players selling items to trade on real money black market websites where you can directly purchase different items. To combat this, Blizzard decided to implement a real money auction house straight into the game. The problem was, with the way itemization worked, getting good items was nigh impossible. It was like winning the lottery. As such, any desirable item quickly was being sold for that cap of $250 on the real money auction house. It left a very bad taste in players' mouths to the point that I honestly don't think the Diablo series ever recovered from. Blizzard even canceled Diablo 3's second expansion to immediately start working on Diablo 4 because executives felt that Diablo 3 was such a colossal mess up for the IP. Not to mention, they killed off one of the most beloved characters in the franchise via Butterfly. Moving on to number 6, we have Diablo IV on release. The hype that Blizzard built around Diablo IV when it was finally announced was unmatched. The cinematic reveal trailer, which was incredibly dark and frankly one of the best cinematics ever attached to a game in my opinion, brought us back to that dark, gritty world that we love from Diablo II, correcting that previous misstep from Diablo III. Now on release though, that hype bubble absolutely bursted, and the player loss since then, Diablo IV has never quite recovered from, and there were many reasons for this. On release, everyone enjoyed a fantastically cinematic story with characters voiced by well-known actors, and a storyline which I thought had a really cool premise. Where things went awry was after those credits rolled. Players started digging deeper into the game systems only to find out there really wasn't much there at the time. Itemization was very poorly thought out, with many overly specific affixes that made it really difficult to identify what items were truly an upgrade for your character. Not to mention that aspects on legendaries at the time, there was no Codex of Power, so if you wanted to save them for a potential upgrade, you had to manually store that specific item in your inventory or stash, which there wasn't much room for. And with 3 different difficulties and tiers of items, normal, sacred, and ancestral at the time, inventories got filled with junk loot way too quickly, and it just made seeing loot drop frustrating and anxiety-provoking than feeling exciting like it should. Add that with no way to actually filter the loot, and it led to many players becoming quite frustrated. On top of this, a game focused on killing as many demons as you can had quite few of them. Helltides and Nightmare Dungeons had very low monster density, and Nightmare Dungeons specifically had very poor pathing at the time, so players didn't really enjoy all the backtracking in empty dungeons combined with really annoying affixes like the Lightning Storm. This caused a massive drop-off of players who never came back for future seasons. Now, moving upwards on the list, we have number 5, and that is Diablo III Reaper of Souls. Diablo III Reaper of Souls did so much to win back player faith and made Diablo III a great game. First and most notably, with the new act and antagonist, Diablo III, at least thematically, returned to its much darker roots that the series is known for, with Malthael becoming the Angel of Death and killing the vast majority of humanity, essentially triggering an apocalypse. That's right, no butterflies in sight this time. With that, add the Loot 2.0 system, which enabled smart loot and made itemization a lot more fun, and the removal of the real money auction house. Those who opted to try Diablo 3 once more and give it another chance with this expansion were pleasantly surprised, like myself, who poured hundreds of hours into this edition of the game. Not to mention the addition of Adventure Mode, which allowed you for the first time in the Diablo series to skip over the campaign and enjoy the endgame, as well as pivotal new content like Greater Rifts, which made it all the way into Diablo IV today. Also, the introduction of legendary gems, set items, and Kanai's Cube added a lot of deep systems to keep you grasped into the endgame. Moving on to number 4 on the list, we have Diablo IV Vessel of Hatred. Diablo IV Vessel of Hatred released with Season 6 of Diablo IV, so I'll be covering all the changes from release to the time of Vessel of Hatred. Many of the issues from the original game were resolved here, with itemization being completely revamped, including new crafting systems like tempering and masterworking, new endgame content to sink your teeth into like a boss ladder, the infernal hordes, and the pit making its return, added much more content for players to experience. Also, with Vessel of Hatred, they revamped how difficulty worked, so they brought back the torment levels that we saw back in Diablo 3. Combine that with a cool new zone, returning us to Nahantu that we saw in Act 3 in Diablo 2, as well as introducing the Spiritborn, which is definitely the most unique class to play in the Diablo franchise, and one that I personally absolutely love. With that, we move into the top 3, and the third of these is the original game Diablo I. Released back in 1996, Diablo I revolutionized and frankly created with its isometric real-time hack-and-slash gameplay, the random dungeons, the random loot drops, the masterful musical score that remains a classic to this day, and introducing characters and demons that have been immortalized in gaming history. One thing that I truly loved about Diablo 1 as well is that it is truly a scary game. You never felt overpowered like you do in the other games, with each floor requiring you to be careful and methodical to conquer. I know at least myself, when I was a little kid playing Diablo 1 for the first time, I got quite a few jump scares, especially from our good old friend, the Butcher. Add the fact that Diablo was the first Blizzard game to go online with Battle.net, paving the way that a lot of multiplayer games are played to this day. Diablo 1 was truly a groundbreaking masterpiece. Now, moving on to number 2 is Diablo II. Diablo II took what Diablo 1 started and pushed the boundaries even further. Taking you out of the small town of Tristram, you got to explore 4 massive, beautiful zones and the introduction of a couple of systems that are still used across ARPGs to this day, such as waypoints and the difficulty tiers once you accomplish a campaign, like normal, nightmare, and hell. Character customization was deepened with the introduction of skill trees, and its itemization was so great that to this day, many fans consider Diablo 2 to have the best item system across the franchise. Not to mention, this is the only game in the Diablo series that you get to directly fight all the prime evils and 2 of the lesser evils hands-on. It was incredibly satisfying from that lore perspective as well. And then making Diablo 2 even better, we move on to the number 1 best Diablo game to release to date, and that is Diablo II Lord of Destruction. Diablo II Lord of Destruction added a fantastic 5th act where we face the Lord of Destruction, Belial, the last of the prime evils, making a great game even better. With this expansion, we got crafting introduced into the game in the way of rune words, secret recipes you can use within the Horadric Cube, the introduction of charms, as well as set items, increasing the depth and complexity of Diablo 2's itemization. This was also the only expansion in the Diablo franchise to release that included not 1, but 2 new classes in the Assassin and the Druid. Combine this with adding synchronizations in the skill trees, and Diablo II Lord of Destruction became the definitive way to play the game. And the recent complete remaster in Diablo II Resurrected holds up quite well today, proving how far ahead of its time Diablo II truly was. Now, what do you all think of this list? Do you agree with these rankings? If not, comment down below and let me know what you think. And speaking of comments, type Talrasha down below to win 1 of 4 Diablo lore books to be drawn on Friday the 25th. And if you wanted to maximize your chances of winning, be sure to watch my streams to earn an extra entry per stream you chat in, and then use your channel points on Twitch to earn up to 3 more entries per stream. And a special thanks to my community for supporting this channel and making these videos possible. Thank you for watching. Until next time.